Have you ever reached for a piece of fruit in the evening, maybe something sweet, juicy and refreshing, believing you were making a healthy choice, only to wake up the next morning feeling strangely lightheaded, foggy, or even a little off balance? Many seniors tell me they choose fruit at night because it feels safer than cookies, pastries, or salty snacks. And in most cases, that's true. But there is one specific fruit that can quietly push your blood pressure upward, strain the delicate blood vessels inside your brain, and raise the risk of a nighttime stroke far more quickly than people realize. Welcome back to the Seniors Health Podcast. Every episode is designed to help you stay strong, independent, and mentally sharp through the decades ahead. And tonight's topic is one that surprises nearly everyone who hears it. We're going to talk about a fruit many seniors eat regularly, one that seems harmless, even wholesome, yet can create a sudden surge in blood pressure that puts tremendous stress on the brain. I'm Dr. Arjoon Goopta, and for over 40 years I have had the privilege of helping older adults maintain stronger bodies, clearer minds, and better health. In my practice, I've seen how easily a small dietary choice, something as innocent as an evening snack, can tip the balance between stability and danger, especially when it comes to stroke risk. And before we go further, I want to gently remind you that what I share here is educational information, not personal medical advice. Your own doctor will always know your medical history best. Now, the fruit we're going to discuss tonight often appears in fruit bowls, lunchboxes, and kitchen counters all across the world. It is inexpensive, easy to digest, and widely considered a safe food for seniors. Yet for someone with high blood pressure, hardening arteries, or a history of heart issues, this fruit can act like lighting a tiny fuse inside the bloodstream, one that burns quietly until it reaches the most delicate vessels in the brain. Before I name it, I want to take you into the world of the brain for a moment because understanding what happens inside your blood vessels will help you see why this fruit matters. Your brain's blood vessels are unlike any others in the body. They are thin, delicate, and constantly under pressure. Every heartbeat sends a small wave of force upward into those vessels, and over the years, high blood pressure, inflammation, and plaque buildup can make them fragile. In younger adults, these vessels stretch and adapt, but in seniors, especially those over 65, they become stiffer, less flexible, more likely to crack under sudden strain. A stroke occurs when one of these vessels either bursts from pressure or becomes blocked. And here's where the hidden danger lies. When you eat something that spikes your blood pressure or your blood sugar quickly, the force inside those vessels rises suddenly. That sudden rise is what I worry about most in my older patients. It's not the slow, everyday changes, but the sudden surges. Let me tell you about a woman named Patricia. She was 72 when she came to me, a bright, vibrant grandmother who loved staying healthy. She walked daily, avoided junk food, and believed she was doing almost everything right. One evening, she felt a bit hungry before bed and reached for what she always considered a gentle snack. A handful of dried fruit. She told me she ate it often because it was sweet, soft, and easy on her digestion. But later that night, she awoke feeling dizzy and weak on one side of her body. Her family rushed her to the hospital where doctors discovered she had suffered a mild stroke. When I sat with her afterwards, she asked me a question I'll never forget. "Doctor, how could fruit have done this?" That question led to a powerful discussion, one I've now had with hundreds of seniors, about the difference between fresh fruit and dried fruit. Because the fruit I'm warning you about tonight is not a fresh apple or pear or banana. It's dried fruit, particularly dried apricots, raisins, dates, and dried figs. Why dried fruit? Because drying removes the water while leaving the sugar behind. Concentrated, powerful, and able to surge into your bloodstream far faster than your body can handle, especially at night. A single dried date may seem harmless, but inside your body, it behaves very differently from a fresh piece of fruit. Think of dried fruit like fruit in its most compressed, intense form. The sugars inside become so concentrated that even a small handful contains the sugar equivalent of several servings of fresh fruit. And when you eat that sugar quickly, especially late in the evening, your blood absorbs it all at once. The result? A rapid spike in blood sugar. Your body responds by releasing insulin. Blood pressure rises, your heart pumps harder, fluid shifts inside the bloodstream, and within minutes, your delicate brain vessels feel that pressure. If someone already has stiff arteries, high blood pressure, or a bit of plaque inside the vessels, that sudden rise becomes dangerous. One of the most concerning issues I see is how dried fruit interacts with blood pressure medications. Many seniors are on medications that help keep their blood pressure stable. When a sudden sugar surge hits, these medications cannot respond fast enough. The blood pressure shoots up before the medicine brings it back down. It's that quick spike, the sudden jolt, that raises stroke risk. Let me share another patient story, one that illustrates this perfectly. Edward was 75, a retired engineer with a gentle, thoughtful manner. He had been managing high blood pressure for years and was proud of his daily routines. Every evening he would sit in his recliner, read a chapter of his favorite book, and enjoy a small bowl of raisins. He told me he believed raisins were heart-healthy because they came from grapes. But over several months he began experiencing strange symptoms. Slight headaches at night, an occasional fluttering feeling in his chest, and moments when his vision blurred for a few seconds. When he mentioned these symptoms to me, something immediately caught my attention. I asked him specifically about what he ate at night. When he said raisins, I gently explained what they were doing inside his body. I still remember the surprise on his face. I thought fruit was always safe, he said quietly. After he stopped eating dried fruit at night and switched to a small serving of fresh berries instead, the headaches disappeared. His blood pressure stabilized. And more importantly, he no longer woke up feeling cloudy or unsteady. Dried fruit creates 3 major issues for seniors, and understanding these will help you make safer choices. The first issue is the rapid sugar surge. Your pancreas rushes to release insulin. Blood sugar swings and crashes, creating a cycle of stress inside your blood vessels. These sudden highs and lows are incredibly dangerous for the brain. The second issue is potassium overload. Many dried fruits, especially apricots and raisins, contain very high levels of potassium. While potassium is good in reasonable amounts, too much at once can interact with blood pressure medications, especially ACE inhibitors and certain diuretics. This can cause blood pressure to fluctuate unexpectedly, straining the tiny vessels in the brain. The third issue is dehydration. Dried fruit pulls water into the digestive tract as your body tries to break it down. At night, when many seniors are already slightly dehydrated, this shift can thicken the blood slightly, making circulation more difficult. Thickened blood plus rising pressure is a dangerous combination. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not telling you to fear fruit. Fresh fruit, berries, apples, oranges, can be incredibly beneficial. They hydrate you, support your digestion, and provide antioxidants that protect the brain. But dried fruit behaves differently inside the body, especially for older adults. And the timing matters. What you eat late at night has a stronger effect on your brain's blood vessels than what you eat during the day. At night, the body is preparing to rest, blood pressure naturally drops, and your brain relies on steady, gentle blood flow to repair itself. When a sudden sugar surge enters the bloodstream, it disrupts this quiet nighttime rhythm. For seniors with hidden risks like mild hypertension, early artery stiffening, or small vessel disease, this disruption can be dangerous. I often tell my patients to imagine their brain's blood vessels as thin glass tubes. During the day, they can handle a bit of traffic, even bumps in pressure. But at night, when everything is calmer, even a small jolt can create a crack. Knowing this, you can already see why dried fruit late at night is not the innocent snack it appears to be. Before we move deeper into this discussion, I want you to imagine something simple. Picture a quiet river late at night. The water should flow smoothly. No waves, no sudden storms, no disruptions. This is how your brain prefers to receive blood during sleep. Calmly, steadily, without force or interruption. Now imagine someone tossing a heavy rock into that river. The splash sends ripples through the water, disturbs the sediment beneath, and momentarily shifts the direction of the current. That is what happens inside your brain's blood vessels when a sudden sugar surge hits the bloodstream from something like dried fruit before bed. It's a shock to a system that's trying hard to settle down. And if the vessels are already fragile, this sudden disruption becomes risky. Your brain does extraordinary work at night. You may be sleeping, but your brain is not. It is clearing toxins, repairing tiny injuries, restoring memory pathways, and balancing the chemicals that shape your mood and thinking. It can only do this when the blood flow remains smooth. When a spike in blood pressure hits, this quiet repair work is interrupted. The vessels tighten. The brain's delicate filters become stressed and inflammation can rise quickly. This is why many older adults who snack on sweet, concentrated foods late at night often wake up feeling groggy, headachy, or slightly off balance. Their brain didn't get the peaceful environment it needed. That disruption, night after night, accumulates. Over months or years, it can increase the risk of cognitive decline, memory problems, and, yes, stroke. Let me tell you about a patient named Ellen. She was 79 and lived alone after her husband passed. She had a habit of eating 2 or 3 dried figs each night because they reminded her of her childhood. She said they comforted her, but she also admitted she had been waking up with pounding headaches, especially around her temples. Sometimes her vision felt blurry for a few minutes when she stood up. She dismissed these as signs of aging, but her symptoms were classic warnings of nighttime blood pressure spikes. When we gently explored her evening habits and found her dried fruit routine, she was shocked. "But it's just fruit," she said, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Something so small couldn't do this." But it can, and it does because of how aging blood vessels respond to concentrated sugars. I encouraged her to switch to 2 small slices of fresh pear or a handful of blueberries instead, something with fiber, water, and gentle sugars. Within a week, her headaches eased. After a month, she told me she felt clearer and steadier in the mornings than she had in years. Nothing else had changed. It was just removing that nightly sugar surge. There's something important I want you to understand here. When you're over 60 or 70, your body no longer processes food the way it did when you were younger. Aging changes everything. Digestion, hormone levels, blood flow, kidney function, and even how quickly the heart adjusts to sudden changes. That means older adults must think differently about foods that cause rapid shifts inside the bloodstream. Fresh fruit is processed slowly because the water and fiber naturally regulate how the sugar enters your blood. But dried fruit bypasses those safety features. It releases sugar almost like a spoonful of syrup would. This is why the same fruit, in fresh form, is gentle, but in dried form, it becomes a pressure trigger. Another thing I want you to consider is the effect on your heart. When a sugar surge enters the blood, the heart responds by pumping harder and faster. That sudden acceleration can be stressful for anyone, but for seniors with arrhythmias, valve issues, or narrowing arteries, it can trigger chest pressure, palpitations, or dizziness. These symptoms might seem mild and temporary, but they hint at deeper strain. A gentleman named Carlos once told me he felt a flutter in his chest every night shortly after his bedtime snack. He assumed it was just age. But when I asked what he was eating, he sheepishly admitted to enjoying a small bowl of mixed dried fruit before bed, something he believed was a healthier alternative to dessert. After he stopped, the fluttering completely disappeared. His heart simply couldn't handle the sudden sugar wave. What's most important to understand is that your nighttime habits have a unique kind of power over your cardiovascular health. During the day, your blood pressure rises naturally with movement. Your heart expects activity and adjusts accordingly. At night, however, your entire system is preparing to settle. Your blood pressure drifts downward, your heart slows, and your nerves ease into stillness. When you introduce a strong stimulant, even one disguised as fruit, you disrupt the whole natural rhythm. This is why dried fruit is far riskier at night than during the day. That timing amplifies its effects. Now let's talk about something many seniors overlook: salt in dried fruit. It may surprise you, but certain packaged dried fruits, especially dried apricots, can have added sodium to preserve colour and texture. Sodium raises blood pressure even further. Now imagine pairing concentrated sugar with unexpected salt. That combination can push blood pressure upward quickly, creating the perfect storm inside the brain's vessels. Another overlooked factor is that some dried fruits contain sulfites, compounds used to preserve colour. Many seniors have mild sensitivities to sulfites without realizing it. In sensitive individuals, sulfites can trigger inflammation, sinus pressure, and blood vessel constriction. All of these increase stroke risk. I once worked with a woman named Haruko who said her face felt flushed every night after her evening snack. She thought it was just warm flashes, but it was her body reacting to sulfites in her dried apricots. When she removed them, From her routine, the flushing disappeared and she slept more peacefully. As you can see, dried fruit is far more complex than it appears. For younger adults, the body can handle these surges more easily. But for seniors, especially those with high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart issues, it becomes a different story. Now, I want to address another question I often get. Isn't fruit natural? How can something natural be harmful? It's a fair question, and the answer is simple. Nature designed fruit to be full of water. When humans remove that water, we change how the fruit behaves inside the body. A grape and a raisin may look related, but they act differently in your bloodstream. The grape hydrates you, slows digestion, and provides fiber. The raisin skips all of that and races into your blood like a fast-moving sugar wave. This doesn't mean you can never enjoy dried fruit, but the timing must be thoughtful and the portion must be small. It should certainly never be a nighttime snack. And for seniors with hypertension, heart disease, or diabetes, it may be best avoided or enjoyed only occasionally during the day. Now let's shift to something important. What you can do instead, because this isn't about restriction, it's about protection. And there are wonderful, safe alternatives that nourish your brain and body without increasing stroke risk. One of the best choices is fresh berries. They offer natural sweetness, antioxidants that protect your blood vessels, and fiber that slows digestion. Another excellent option is a few slices of apple or pear, fruits that release their sugars steadily, not suddenly. Even a small piece of banana can be helpful for those who need something calming and easy to digest before sleep. Some seniors prefer something warm in the evenings, and that can be beneficial too. A warm herbal tea without caffeine can relax the nervous system and support healthy circulation. Chamomile, lemon balm, and lavender teas are particularly soothing. For those who need something more substantial, a small serving of plain yogurt can calm inflammation and provide gentle protein that supports nighttime repair. Just make sure it's not sweetened. The goal is simple. Choose foods that support your brain's nighttime rhythm rather than shock it. As you begin to think differently about your evening habits, I want to leave you with a story that still warms my heart. A man named Leonard, 82 years old, came to me after experiencing several frightening dizzy spells upon waking. He admitted he was terrified of having a stroke. When we explored his routines, we discovered that every night he ate 3 large dates as a treat because he had given up cookies years ago. Once he stopped the dates and replaced them with a small bowl of blueberries. Everything changed. His morning dizziness disappeared, and over time he felt clearer, more alert, and more confident. He once told me, "Doctor, I didn't know. Something so small could make such a big difference." But at his age, small differences are often the biggest ones of all. Before we go deeper, I want you to pause for just a moment and think back over the last few weeks. Have there been mornings when you woke up and something felt slightly off, even if you couldn't quite explain it? Not severe enough to call a doctor, not dramatic enough to frighten you, but just different. A heaviness behind the eyes, a brief feeling of unsteadiness when standing, a moment of blurred vision, a dull ache at the back of the head, a pulse that feels louder than usual in your ears. Many seniors shrug these moments off, chalking them up to age or a poor night's sleep. But in reality, these subtle signals are often your brain's quiet way of saying, "Please be careful, my blood vessels are under strain." These warnings become especially important in the context of nighttime sugar surges, surges that dried fruit can trigger more aggressively than many people realize. Before a major stroke ever happens, the body gives small, gentle clues. When we learn to recognize these whispers, we can prevent the shout. One of the earliest signs is what I call pressure headaches, especially those that appear in the morning. These headaches often feel like a tight band around the temples or a dull throb behind the eyes. They tend to resolve after an hour or two, which is why many seniors ignore them. But they often indicate that your blood pressure rose unexpectedly during the night, strained the vessels inside the skull, and left behind a temporary soreness. Another sign is morning brain fog, that feeling of being slightly disconnected or out of sync when you first wake up. You may feel like your thoughts are moving through syrup, slower than usual. This fog can happen when nighttime blood pressure spikes prevent the brain from completing its cleansing and repair cycle. Instead of waking refreshed, you wake half restored. A third warning sign is brief balance changes, those few unsteady steps when you first rise from bed. Some seniors describe it as feeling a little drunk. Others say the room seemed tilted for a second. When blood pressure fluctuates too quickly inside the brain, the inner ear and coordination centers momentarily struggle to find stability. Another common early symptom is seeing tiny flashes of light or shimmering shapes, especially upon standing. Many seniors assume these are eye problems, but often these visual disturbances come from temporary changes in blood flow to the retina or visual centers of the brain. Then there's the pulsing sensation. Some patients describe hearing their heartbeat in their ears at night. Others feel a rhythmic throb at the back of their skull. This happens when blood pressure rises suddenly and pushes forcefully against the vessels inside the head. It's a sign to pay attention. One gentleman, named Howard, once told me he felt as though his head was filled with a soft drumbeat whenever he lay down. He had been eating a handful of dried apricots each night after dinner because he assumed they were heart healthy. Once he removed them from his routine, that nightly thumping subsided within days. These signs don't mean a stroke is imminent, but they do mean your brain is asking for gentler treatment. I want you to imagine an older bridge or roadway that has served your town for decades. With age, that structure becomes more fragile. The weight of a car passing during the day may cause no problem, but if you send a heavy truck over it late at night when the bridge is colder and less flexible, the risk of a crack increases. Similarly, nighttime is the period when your vessels are least able to handle unexpected pressure. Your brain's blood vessels are aging structures. They need careful handling, not sudden loads. Understanding these early signs empowers you to intervene long before the situation becomes dangerous. And that brings us back to the importance of choosing the right foods in the evening. Now, I want to talk about something deeply personal that many seniors never share: the fear of stroke. When I sit with my older patients, they often admit, sometimes in a soft whisper, "Doctor, I'm scared of ending up unable to speak or walk." They've watched friends or spouses suffer strokes that change their lives overnight. They know it is one of the greatest threats they face as they age. But here is the hopeful part. Stroke risk is not a mysterious force that strikes without warning. It's something you can influence every single day through blood pressure control, through healthier routines, and, yes, through safe nighttime eating habits. Let's explore what happens inside the brain when a sugar surge hits. When dried fruit rapidly raises blood sugar, your pancreas responds with a burst of insulin. Insulin lowers blood sugar but also affects fluid balance inside the body, causing slight shifts that can increase blood volume. More blood volume means more pressure inside the vessels. Add that to the heart pumping harder, and suddenly you have a double force pushing upward into the brain. The brain's vessels narrow slightly, trying to compensate. But if the vessel walls are stiffened from age, inflammation, or plaque, they can't respond as flexibly as before. The pressure rises inside these narrow tubes. The lining becomes stressed and tiny tears, called micro-injuries, can form. These micro-injuries don't cause immediate symptoms, but over time they build up. They contribute to memory issues, slower processing, and increased risk of a larger rupture. This is why nighttime blood pressure control is one of the best ways to prevent stroke. And controlling nighttime spikes means avoiding foods that act like quick explosives inside the bloodstream. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is that fruit can't be harmful, but the form of the fruit matters more than anything. Dried fruit compresses sugar the way coal compresses carbon into diamonds. It becomes powerful, condensed, and impactful in a way nature never intended. A woman named Naomi, aged 75, taught me something important. She used to nibble on dried figs every night because they reminded her of her childhood in the countryside. But she also suffered from morning dizziness she chalked up to her age. When she removed the figs, her dizziness stopped. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Doctor, we elders can't eat the way we did when we were children. Our bodies have changed." She was right. And understanding those changes is key to protecting your health. Now let's transition into something practical, what your brain truly needs before bed. Your brain thrives on steadiness, steady blood flow, steady oxygen levels, steady hormones, steady digestion. Anything that disrupts this balance makes it harder for your brain to repair itself. So what foods support steadiness? One of the best evening choices is a small serving of fresh berries. They deliver antioxidants that protect the vessel walls. Their natural sweetness is gentle, not overwhelming. Their water content hydrates the blood and keeps it flowing smoothly. Another excellent option is half of a fresh apple or pear. These fruits provide soluble fiber, which slows digestion and keeps blood sugar stable. A few slices of cucumber can also be soothing, hydrating, alkaline, gentle on digestion. If you prefer something creamy, plain Greek yogurt is a quiet hero for the brain. It provides protein, calcium, and probiotics, which help calm inflammation throughout the body. Just be sure to choose an unsweetened version. Herbal teas can also support brain health. Chamomile relaxes the nervous system. Ginger tea supports circulation. Lemon balm helps quiet the mind. These teas don't spike sugar, don't elevate blood pressure, and don't strain the vessels. For seniors with diabetes or blood sugar concerns, a few almonds or walnuts can be a grounding evening choice. They contain healthy fats and minerals that stabilize blood sugar, but they should be eaten in small amounts, not large handfuls. The idea is to choose foods that nourish without rushing, that comfort without overstimulating, that support the brain's nightly repair mission. And now I want to share something many seniors find comforting. The brain is more resilient than most people realize. Even in your 70s, 80s and beyond, the brain can heal. Vessel walls can strengthen, inflammation can decrease, blood flow can improve, but it needs to be protected, not pushed, not jolted, not strained. When you remove dried fruit from your nighttime routine, you give your brain a powerful gift: stability. And stability is what allows healing. I once worked with a man named Samuel who was 83 years old. He had survived a minor stroke and was terrified of having another. Each night he ate a small handful of raisins because he believed fruit was always safe. When he learned what those raisins were doing inside his body, he looked heartbroken. "I didn't know," he whispered. But when he stopped and replaced them with a few slices of fresh apple, his sleep improved, his morning clarity returned, and his confidence grew. His body responded to the gentler routine almost immediately. That's the message I want you to take to heart. Your body wants to recover. It wants to protect you. It just needs the right environment. As we come into this final part of our conversation, I want to talk with you about something deeply important: building an evening routine that protects your brain, supports your heart, and keeps your blood vessels calm during the overnight hours when your body is most vulnerable. These routines do not need to be complicated, exhausting, or restrictive. In fact, the most powerful routines are gentle, predictable, and calming. Exactly what an aging brain craves. When I speak with seniors who have managed to maintain strong brain health well into their 70s, 80s, and even 90s, a pattern always appears. They have a consistent rhythm at night. They don't shock their bodies with sudden sugar surges, heavy meals, or stimulating foods. They don't go to bed with racing hearts or elevated blood pressure. Instead, they prepare their bodies the way you might prepare a child for sleep, with warmth, softness, and a reliable sequence of soothing steps. Let me take you through what this looks like and why it matters. Your brain begins preparing for sleep long before you actually close your eyes. Hormones start shifting. Blood pressure gradually drops. Your heart rate slows. Even your digestive system winds down. When this natural rhythm is supported, your brain enters night with ease. But when you throw a surge into the bloodstream, especially a sugar surge, your body startles as if it is trying to sleep during a thunderstorm. This is why choosing gentle, steadying foods and avoiding concentrated dried fruit is so important. Many seniors don't realize that the last thing they eat before bed has a greater impact than almost anything they eat during the rest of the day. It affects blood pressure, sleep quality, vessel stability, inflammation, and even how your brain clears waste. So let's begin here, the last hour before bed. For most older adults, the strongest healing happens when the evening becomes predictable. Your brain thrives on patterns. When you follow the same soothing steps each night, your brain learns to relax sooner, which helps keep your blood pressure lower and your vessel walls calmer. This is the time to dim lights, put away stimulating screens, and let the nervous system settle. You might sit quietly and read a few pages of a book. You might stretch gently. You might sip a warm herbal tea, something calming, not sugary. This is also the perfect time for a light brain protective snack if you need one. I worked with a man named Raymond who struggled with racing thoughts at night. He used to reach for dates or raisins because he believed they helped him sleep. In reality, they were making his heart beat faster and pushing his blood pressure higher. We replaced that habit with a warm cup of chamomile tea and a small handful of blueberries. Within a week, he was sleeping more peacefully. Within a month, he told me he couldn't imagine returning to dried fruit at night. His entire mood and mental clarity improved. Your brain doesn't want stimulation before bed. It wants reassurance. Food should offer that same calm. Now, let's talk about something older adults often ignore. Hydration. Many seniors stop drinking water too early in the evening because they fear nighttime bathroom trips. While this caution makes sense, it sometimes leads to slight dehydration by night. When the body is mildly dehydrated, the blood becomes thicker, and thicker blood is harder for the brain to move through the narrow vessels of the night. You don't need to drink large amounts of water late in the day, just enough to stay comfortably hydrated. A small glass with dinner, perhaps a few sips of warm tea later, and then tapering off is usually enough. This keeps the bloodstream smooth, not sticky, and allows pressure to remain steady. Another key part of a protective nighttime routine is gentle movement. I often encourage my older patients to spend 2 or 3 minutes performing soft stretches before bed. Nothing strenuous, just slow, smooth motions that ease tension in the neck, shoulders, and back. This helps circulation, lowers cortisol, and relaxes muscles that tend to stiffen with age. When circulation improves, blood moves more easily through the vessels of the brain, and when the neck muscles relax, they stop compressing the tiny blood vessels that supply oxygen upward. This quiet preparation supports restful sleep and healthy morning clarity. I remember a woman named Evelyn who used to wake every morning feeling slightly foggy, with a sense of pressure around her forehead. After we discussed her nighttime habits, she began a simple routine: dimming lights, stretching lightly, sipping a small cup of tea, and choosing fresh berries instead of dried fruit. She returned to me after several weeks, smiling as she said, "Doctor, I feel 10 years younger in the morning." It wasn't magic, it was protection. Her brain had finally been given the stable nighttime environment it needed. Now I want to address something I hear often. "Doctor, I've lived this long eating whatever I want, why change now?" And whenever someone tells me that, I gently remind them that the brain changes in its later decades. The vessels that carry blood upward are no longer as flexible as they once were. The body that once tolerated sugar surges and late-night snacks without complaint is now more vulnerable to pressure swings. This does not mean life becomes a list of restrictions, but it does mean paying closer attention to how your body responds. And the truth is, most seniors feel better, lighter, clearer, calmer when they shift toward gentler evening habits. Let's now explore the emotional side of this conversation because it's something many older adults hesitate to discuss. Behind the fear of stroke is often a deeper fear, the fear of losing independence, the fear of becoming a burden, the fear of no longer being yourself. I've sat across from hundreds of older adults who carry this quiet worry. They want to protect their minds. They want to stay sharp enough to care for themselves, enjoy their families, and remain connected to the world around them. Avoiding dried fruit at night may seem like a small change, but small changes accumulate into powerful protection. When you choose a snack that keeps your blood pressure stable, you protect the tiny vessels that allow you to speak, walk, remember, and love. When you avoid sugar surges, you support your brain's nightly cleansing cycle. When you take care of your evening habits, you take care of your future. Let me share one final story. A woman named Margaret in her early 80s once told me that she wanted to remain healthy not because she feared illness, but because she didn't want her granddaughter to worry about her. Every night she used to enjoy several dried dates because they reminded her of family holidays from decades earlier. But when she learned what they were doing to her blood pressure at night, she made a quiet commitment to herself. "I want to stay present for the people who love me." She switched to a few slices of fresh peach or apple in the evenings. She drank warm tea instead of snacking. She created a soothing nighttime ritual that matched her desire for calm. Months later, she told me, "Doctor, I never knew I had this much control over my own well-being." That is the gift I want you to walk away with tonight. control. Empowerment, the understanding that your body still listens to the choices you make, especially the choices you make at night. Before we close, I want to remind you gently that this is educational information, not personal medical advice. Your own doctor, who knows your medical history and medications, is the best person to guide your individual decisions. But the principles we discussed tonight, the importance of blood pressure stability, the risks of concentrated sugars at night, the vulnerability of aging vessels, and the healing power of a calm evening routine, apply to nearly every older adult. Your brain is precious. Your independence is precious. And your nightly habits are one of the simplest, most accessible ways to protect both. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Dr. Arjoon Goopta, and it has been my privilege to guide you through this important subject. Stay gentle with yourself. Stay curious about your own health and choose foods that nourish rather than strain. And above all, remember that even small adjustments can create meaningful protection for your body and mind. Take care, stay steady, and I'll see you in the next episode.